Thank you, Charlene, and the guys over at DevC, UON, for this invite. I'm pleased to be here, and I'm trusting that we shall have a lovely session, and you guys shall be able to be motivated to go and make stuff in Flutter. So for today's session, we shall be doing WhatsApp UI, and so we shall be converting this empty Flutter application into something that looks like this. So we shall be having the list of charts and the various tabs, and then the tabs for the chart list and the tabs for the status, and then we shall have a calls tab. For purpose of this meetup, we shall not have the camera section, because it is out of the scope of this meeting. And then also, I think here we shall be able to see a few stories that have been posted by developer circles. So from here, we are headed to something that looks like this. Awesome. So for any Flutter application, the code base is in the folder, and specifically the main.dat file. In the lib folder, there is the main.dat file, which has the main method. And in the main method, it calls a function called runapp that is able to run our application. So think of it, I think I've used this example some time back. Think of it as a house. So what runapp does is it displays the entire house for you. And so if our house is the application, our house is made up of bricks. So you find that each bricks are laid upon one another to be able to come up with a house. And so in Flutter, those bricks are called widgets. Okay, so ideally, there are two types of widgets. One, we have a stateless widget, and then we have a stateful widget, which we shall see in a few minutes. So a stateless widget, it's expected that stuff in a stateless widget shall not be changing at runtime. But a stateful widget is used when you expect data in a particular widget to be able to change during runtime. In terms of bricks, a stateless widget, if you have a brick, that brick remains the way it is. But then a stateful widget, maybe somebody makes a mark in that brick while the house is already up. So a stateful widget makes an environment to be able to allow a change in that environment, either like in that widget as the application is running. So every widget, despite it being stateless or stateful, has one main method called the build method. So the build method, it constructs the widget and then it gives it back to whoever is asking for it. So you find that my app, there's a class called my app, which extends stateless widget, which is given by the Flutter framework. So this app is what is needed by the runapp method. And so this widget, this widget is returned by this build method to run up, and then it's able to be displayed by the framework. So ideally, this is the basic structure of a Flutter application. So here we have one big widget called the MaterialUp widget, which now creates like a housing for everything else. So think of it, the MaterialUp widget is like the walls together with the roof, and then now the widgets that we should be playing around with are now in the house. Say like we have the bedroom, we have the bathroom, we have the kitchen, and all those things. So this app is called WhatsApp. So this name WhatsApp is what is shown here. If I do this, I should be able to see the name what's up here. And then theme data, this one here, it defines the you can say like theme your application. So for instance, if I want my app to be red all around, I can set the primary color here as red, and then that way now anywhere that I'm in the app, I'm able to use the primary color, so that I'm changing colors in only one place and not pasting color values everywhere. So that is ideally the theme of the app. And then this one here, so in debug mode, let me just show you this. There's normally this banner up here to show that this application is in development or it's in debug mode. So if you want to see that, you turn that flag off so that you see a clear screen. And then now for the material application, so this here are called properties. So you can now set a property here. There's a property called home, which now is responsible for saying when this app first opens, open this screen first. Okay, so I think we are okay until there. And so I think on a previous session, like someone once asked, where does stateless widget come from? This is provided by the Flutter framework. MaterialUp also given by the Flutter framework, same as this, but this one here is a custom one that we have made. So to be able to know the difference, if I hover over the name MaterialUp, I can come here and see from which package it was imported from. And this package is defined in a file called the pubspec.yaml file. So here we can be able to see the dependencies that this application uses. So one of them is the Flutter framework itself. So we are importing the material widget, the stateless widget from the Flutter framework, among other things. So in our case, we have that as the only package of importance here. And then, so after that has happened, we'll now go into our homepage. Going into our homepage. So in our homepage, again, we'll make here, this is now an example of a stateful widget. So a stateful widget has two parts. There is the main part, and then this here is the environment where things can be able to change as the app is running. And so here we are able to see that, let me just minimize this. Okay, let me do this. Here now we're able to see what our text says here. So here we have something called a scaffold. So a scaffold ideally provides a structure. So think of it in terms of a house. Before a house goes up, you normally set they set up beams and all those things. So beams here now like tell the fundis where to place whatever they're placing. So the scaffold ideally is a kind of a framework to be able to tell you where to place stuff. And so maybe one thing I'm forgetting also, as you can see, our app is extending all the way to the top. So if you want to, on some phones, you can find that some phones have notches, and that isn't good for a phone. Okay, sorry, for a phone that has a notch, because that part of the UI will be hidden. So you can wrap the entire screen, like the entire scaffold, in an area called a scaffold, so that your app takes up the space. Also, this is important because there are some phones, like if you've seen the new Samsung phones, at the edges they're sliding. So you don't want to be you don't want to put user interaction elements at those particular near those waterfall edges, because the user might be unable to use the application properly. So this helps you to prevent that. And so as we are here now, I'd like us to add what is called an AppBar. So remember, like one thing to recall as we continue, in Flutter, everything is a widget. So here we shall now add a few widgets to be able to bring our application. Let me just remove this, and then there's a property on Scaffold called the AppBar. So this I had prepared this like this beforehand, so I'll take you through as we go along. So we have a widget called the AppBar. So what the AppBar does is that it gives us what appears on top there, depending on the material design. So for the AppBar, you can specify a title. A title is a property that takes in a widget. The widget here is the text widget. The text widget, you can pass in the text that you want, and then you can pass something called elevation, which now like enables an illusion of the AppBar appearing slightly on top of the other screen, of the other layer. And then we have a property called bottom. So bottom, in our case, here we'll do a tab bar. So a tab bar will now be able to like give us the various tabs that are there on WhatsApp. So we have here, let me just show that picture. So here we'll have the chats, status, and calls. So that is taken care of by this. So we have the tab bar, the indicator color, like what color is, let me just run this, and let me just refresh this, and then, okay, sorry, I need to put in a tab controller. So a tab bar takes in a tab controller. So a tab controller is responsible for controlling interactions. Okay. So this takes in a tab controller. A tab controller. Vsync this. So and then length, how many tabs do we need? We have 3 tabs, and then yeah, that should be it ideally. So we find that a tab controller is now able to manipulate to like help us manipulate the various tabs that are there. So this tab controller will have 3 tabs. So we specify like how big they are, how many they are. Then we have this property here called vsync. So vsync, this tab controller is animated, and for any animation, there is need to like report the number of frames which are changing in that particular animation. So you find that tab bar controller provides there's this mixin which is provided by Flutter, which is able to tell us that in this particular screen we have one animated thing, and that thing has to report back how many views, rather how many frames have changed in a particular animation. So that way now the tab controller is able to use it for its own internal things. So if I reload tab, okay, let me copy in the body. Sorry. The body. Okay. Okay, here we go. So if I copy in the body, I'm able to import some pages that I've made that I have made into here. So this should work now. Oh yeah, I have to restart. Sorry. It's got restarting. So yeah, here we are. That was a close one. All right, so you find that here we have our 3 tabs. So here we have our indicator color. The indicator color is this color down here. So as it's changing, it's telling you which tab is active. So as you somewhere down here, there's a white line that is on the bottom. So maybe let me just have this as red for now, and then be able to like see, yeah, as you can see, there's a red line which is now telling you this is the currently active tab. So for us, we want ours to be color white. Awesome. And then we have 3 tabs: tab 1, charts; tab 2, text; tab 3, calls. And then here we have on the AppBar, we have a property called actions, which takes in a list of widgets. So our first widget here is called is an icon, and then it displays the search button. And then we have another widget called padding. After there, we have another widget called padding, and the padding is able to make a space. Let me just do this. So the padding ideally gives a space between widgets. So this one here is set to horizontal. So towards the right, it gives a space of 5 units. And then we have lastly another widget called an icon, and then it displays it displays this button, which like now indicates that you are having more stuff there. And so that is it for the AppBar. And then if I collapse this now in the body, each AppBar here, this tab will match this screen. This tab will match this screen, and this last tab here will match the call screen. And so that is it for basically the home page. And then lastly, after the body, on WhatsApp, you normally see some button. So that button from the material specification is called a floating action button. So a floating action button looks like this. Let me just copy and paste this in. This is how an action button looks like. So this button here, just watch this. You can be able to see that it's popped up there. So it takes in a background color. So remember, I had told us that in Flutter, you can theme your application. So this color, instead of specifying that this should be color green, it was already specified here as the accent color. So I come and use theme off, and then the accent color that has been set across the entire application for the background color. And then this floating action button takes in a single child. So I think I forgot to mention this, but every widget takes either a child or children. So if it takes one, it's a child. If it takes multiple elements, it takes the children property. It takes the children property. And then an action, if I press it, it will now print. If I press this, it will print here, new chart, and so on and so forth. So ideally, this is now the framework now for a Flutter application that now displays a basic WhatsApp UI. And then, so remember that here we have 3 screens. We have the chat screen, status screen. So I like us now to move into the chat screen. So in the chat screen, we now have our widget here called center, and then center has one child called text, and text is now telling us welcome to chats. But here we want here a list. Oh yeah, I think I forgot something else. So we also want to do this. So you see on WhatsApp, you only see the texting button. This one for the message if you are on the chat page. So for our case, if we do this, we can have here a variable called show fab to be say true. Yes. And then here we can say if it's at index 1, so in our tab, this will be index 0, index 1, index 2. So if the tab controller is at index 0, let's also put this as the initial index, which index it will always show first. So if the tab controller is at index 0, let's show fab and then we can do this. So ideally what this is if our tab is at index 0, then show the floating action button, otherwise don't show anything. That way now, if I come here, let me restart because it's okay. Yeah, so if I'm on the chats page, it shows. If I move to another page, it doesn't show now. Awesome. So that's it for the home page. The next, the chats page. On the chats page now, ideally on the chats page, we have a list of charts. So in Flutter, there's a widget for a list, and we'll do it's called a list view. A list view, and we'll do a variation of list view called that has this. So here, item builder, this one here will tell us for every item to run, like for every item, whatever to display. Then here we have want to display a list tile. So, and then a separator. After every item, we want to have a divider. Sorry. After every item, we want to have a divider. So, as a divider. And then now, the item count. So, like there's a list here of what we shall use to be able to like see like a number of charts. So I'll import this variable into this file. This here is a list of charts. For those familiar with the structures, we can now use let me just import this, and then we get the length of that to like just like show us, like tell us this list should be this long. So here we shall have 1, 2, 3, 4, like around six items in that list. So if we do that, okay, that's the first thing. So now in the list style, we now want to show the details that we need in that particular list. So here we'll have on the list style, we'll have the first thing, the list of leading. So what leading does is it tells us, leading tells us dummy data. Let me call this index. So this circle avatar will be shown as the first thing, on the list tile. So if I refresh, you can be able to see the list tile there. Yes, here we can now see that we have a list tile. So here we have a color, the background color, and then the background image. And this should now be the avatar image, and then it's now and displayed there. So it's network image, and you can see the image there. And then here we can see a divider that is able to separate the various lines in a chart. And then remember, we are using our dummy data here, and then we are looping through each item in this list. Like we are looping through it here, and then at every index we are displaying the avatar for this particular widget, and the index is gotten from this particular place. And the context, just to expound it a bit, the context represents the position of that particular widget on the tree. So because you see, like here we have the application running. This application has children, that child has more children, and so on and so forth. So the context allows the framework to know which particular position that widget is in. And then after the leading, we have next, we have a property called title, which also takes in a widget. It's a property here called title. And then this is the index. So if I refresh this, I can be able to see some names. So we can be able to see some names here. So here we have a text, and then let me just go back here a bit. So here we have the name, the message, the time, and then the avatar URL. So we are coming here and we are displaying the name from a particular list. And then the name, you're giving it a style. It's this widget here is a row. So a row takes multiple elements. So it takes children. So we have the first one here being the name, and then next we have the time. So because it's a row, things are arranged horizontally. And then we can able to see that here we have the name here, and then we have the time there. And then yes, and then also there needs also to be a trailing property. Sorry. Sorry. So this is the property called subtitle. That's part of the list. And then here we can be able to show that as so if I copy this in here, we can be able to see our picture, and then the name of the person, and then the last message that they had sent. And that is basically it for the chat screen. And the chat screen ideally is done. Someone has asked how easy is it? If you have an Android application, the possibility to have a module in Flutter is there, but the work that is needed is quite a bit. So what most companies do is they rebuild the entire application in Flutter because of how you see, because of how easy it is to be able to compose these widgets and to be able to style them. All this without using any third party as of now, and that's why it's considered easy. And also because this can happen for both iOS and Android, then most companies prefer to use Flutter for their products, which are able to reach a variety of their clients and at a much higher quality as compared to other native platforms. And then also another question: how easy it is to use native Android libraries in Android application using the Flutter framework. So it's something called the platform channels. So what platform channels do is that they help Flutter interact with the underlying platform. So you can program platform channels for yourself for both iOS and Android, because then they're available in both platforms. And then now the platform channel is now responsible for transferring data from Android or from iOS into the Flutter application from Flutter. But then before you get to platform channels, though it's possible and slightly straightforward, usually there's a rich package ecosystem in Flutter. you find that there are very many libraries out there that are able to cater for anything that you might need. Allow it to load for now. Yes. And then lastly, how is all this vital when it comes to using WhatsApp, or rather, what's the new future you're targeting on WhatsApp? So ideally, what we are aiming to do for this meeting is just show the possibilities of Flutter. And for an app like WhatsApp, I don't think they'll do the app in Flutter. But yeah, this is just like showing that if you want to do an app like WhatsApp, then here's how you compose the UI. Here's how you bring in the various components to be able to make something look nice. And yeah, so with this now, you're able to like see how to combine various widgets, how to go about composing your own widgets to be able to make your own cool stuff. I think it's now loaded, not yet. So there's a rich package ecosystem here. If you want to call the Windows platform, there's a package for that. If you're an image picker, there's a package for that. If you want other stuff, there's so many packages for that you're able to browse through and just enjoy. And then I'll answer this question, then you can proceed, and then I'll answer some more questions after I am done with the other screens. So how can I make my transition from Android Studio to Flutter seamless? I think this was my network is having an issue. Sorry about that. I used to do some Android development, some minor Android development, and then I found Flutter. So you'll find that it is very easy to, if you've made an Android application like from scratch and build it up to be able to do things like network calls and all those things, you find that if you try Flutter, then you are able to move with speed as someone who has not had any experience at all with building mobile applications. So if you've done Android development, then principles of mobile still apply in Flutter, only that now, as opposed to writing XML, you are now writing widgets here, which are much more beautiful and much easier to compose as compared to XML in Android. So maybe just as you continue, if you can hear me clearly, you can type in the chat 111, and then we continue. Thank you. Okay, we have a number of responses. Great. I think we can proceed from there. So I'd like us to now move on to the status screen. So if we switch here, we have here a piece of text on the status screen. It's called "Welcome to Statuses," and then we can see that here. So on the status screen, we have a widget here called a column. So a column will now allow us to arrange our widgets accordingly. So I'll paste in the first widget. Here we go. And then also, don't be worried, this code will be available online for you to browse at your own pace once you're done. So I'll copy in the first widget. This is a card. It's white in color, in an elevation of 0, and then it has an image. Let me just run this. Let me just refresh this. Let me see it in action. Yes. So here we have our, as you can see, the background here is a bit grayish, but then we have here our card being color white, and then we now have our picture. So here we have something called a stack. A stack allows us to pile widgets on top of each other. So here we have a stack here. It has the circular avatar, which now has a picture, and then it now has something. It now has the white icon that's surrounded by a green circle to now tell us to add our story there. And so this is one widget. So this positioned enables you to position your widget in a stack. So think of a stack as a cube, or rather like a cube. A cube. So here we've placed circular avatar at the bottom of the cube, and then here we want to place this container on the stack, but then we want on the bottom to be 0 and want it to be at the end, so that we are able to have it properly aligned. My network is breaking. To have it properly aligned with the image there. And then next we have also remember, this here is a list style. A list style has taken the leading property here, the leading property. And then next we have a text, my status, and then we have the declaration of the font. It's bold in font. And then next we have a subtitle called tab to, which takes in a text widget that says tab to add a status update. And that is it for the top part of the card. So here a column arranges things from top to down, but a row arranges things from left to right. We had seen a row in the here, like where the cool person A is the first element of the row, and then we have the time at the end there. That's it for the top part of the. So that's the first widget at the top. Okay, awesome. And then next we have this thing called a padding. So let me just do this, and then after the card we now have this viewed updates. So this is a text, and then we surround it with a padding of 8 all around. So this here tells us to make a padding of 8 units all around this particular text. If I want to make it to the left, right, bottom, top, and so on and so forth, but here we want it for all the sides. And then after that, we now have a big, like another list here now. We're almost coming to an end on this page, and then I do this here. If I refresh this now, we can be able to see oof, okay, there's an error somewhere. You're not supposed to be there. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, interesting. I pasted it in twice. Okay, yeah. And then also the beauty about Flutter is you see it's on the terminal, and then I just press R to reload, and then we can be able to see our things there. So here we have an expanded. So expanded ideally tells this widget to fill up the entire remaining space, and then it's a container which is white in color, and then it now contains a list. So here this list contains children. So remember, list has various variations. So here in the chat screen we had a list view dot separated. So there's one called .builder. Builder takes in build and separated are used for lists which grow dynamically, as in you don't know beforehand how many items you'll have in the list. So you want to use a list builder. So this in Android is the equivalent of I think not a spinner. Is it a spinner? Yeah, but ideally you're able to it's constructed as the widget is on the screen and then destroyed after it leaves the screen. So this build and then separated now is a variation of builder, which now has this separator. So now here we have a list view, but this one is just a list view, and it takes in children. So only use a list view that takes in a list of children if you expect it to have a few number of children, and then like beforehand what those children will be. So for instance here, like we just have one list style, and then the leading, like this now, leading a circular avatar, the image is there, then the title, developer circles, and then the style, text style, font weight, and then it's bold. So these are properties, and then if you paste in the widget, and then you're able to, like, if you just come above here, you can see what you can be able to do with it. So you can specify the color of the text, you can specify the background color, you can specify how big the font is, you can specify the font weight, the font style, and so on and so forth. So for any widget, if you just hover above it, you can be able to see what properties it contains that you're able to customize for your particular UI. Yes, and then an interesting thing now, here we have, this is a list style. So a list style has a function called on tap. So if I tap it on WhatsApp, if you tap the list, it now opens. If you tap the DM, if you tap the message, it opens the list of DMs. So here, if I come here, I'll do has tap. So here, if I tap it, if I now want to move to another screen, I can use navigator.push. So push will take me to another screen, and that screen is being called here story page view. So in story page view, let's just see it. We shall see that there's a list of story items. So here we have a package called there's a package here called story view. What is that here? So story view is now imported from pub.dev, and then we can be able to show stories in our application. So in case you want to show stories in application, yeah, there's a package for that. And yeah, since everyone is adding stories, you might as well add your own stories to your own application in Flutter. So here we have story items. Here we have if it's a text, like we have the first one is be cool, the second one is an image, third is an image, and then this here, as opposed to material which is imported from Flutter, this particular one here is imported from the story view package. And so if I refresh this, let me just refresh this. If I refresh this, minimize. If I refresh this and then I tap developer circles, it opens a page which now has my text, be cool. The second one, it has the image. It's not loading. Okay, so be cool. Then the second one, an image. The third one, also another image. That's it for that status page. And then lastly, the calls page. So for the calls one, this is not the last one. I didn't prepare these ones beforehand, so we'll do it's very quick, because again it's just a list. So here, I hope you guys enjoy this. So here we have so we had here a text calls font size 20. So we now want to replace this with a list view. So list view, and then in the list view we want it to have children of list tile. List tile. List tile, sorry. So list tile, I'll just copy this lead part from here, so that we don't a lot of copy and pasting. And you need a lot of making of things already there. And then from there now, once you get a receive a call, we now have the title, text, and then we have the text is, say, cool person F, and then the subtitle. So just like let me just show you this. Yeah, cool person F, and then now have these are links that you can like display the things, the items. So here we have an item button, and then here we have on do nothing, and then we have the icon. So this is cons dot video call. It should be a video, yeah, video, and then specify the color. So here we have a trailing icon button that is put towards the end, and then on press do nothing. Then we have icon. It's a video call. It can be color green also. Yeah, and then next you can have a subtitle. A subtitle here. So for subtitle, we can take in a row. So we have children. So the first one, you can have an icon, and then here we have icons dot incoming video. I think video. Let me just do this. Yes, missed video call. And then here the color can be color red. And then after that, we can then have the time that it happened. So we can say this is November 21st. This is 2020, and then you can say November 21st, 2020, and then you can now say space, and then this is what time was it? Say this is 5:55, and then that should do it. Yeah, and then we have our missed video call there. Yeah, and so on and so forth. And then we can now I can now just so what I can do now is also I think if you noticed, what I did was I just like typed in video. So you notice that Flutter the tooling provides uses AI to provide suggestions. So like this one here has the word video in it, so you can be able to just get recommendations for whatever you want, in case you forgot what you're looking for. And then now what I can now do is I come here because all of them look like this. I can come here and then I do this. I right click here. I think I'll on VS Code is control and period, and then I extract the widget, and then I call it call entry view. And then after doing that, I'm given a widget, so I can come here and then I copy and paste my widgets there, and then I have an entire list of calls and so on and so forth. So ideally, there it is. We have our application UI, and so I think I'm done. So for the next steps now, this is just the beginning, because in Flutter UI is the easiest thing to do. So after doing the UI, you now have to press this. It does whatever it's supposed to do. So the next step after you've done the UI is to do something called state management, which is now another whole beast by itself. So there are various number of state management patterns where you're able to help your application do interactions efficiently. Yeah, so those are available. Okay, so if I want to make network calls, how do I bring that in here? So if you use a good state management pattern, you're able to ensure that your logic and your UI don't mix a lot. And there we have it. So I'm committing this, and then I'll send Charlene all the links, like all the links for this session to be able to share in your various groups. And then from there, let me just add this. And then I'm pushing this to GitHub. So on GitHub, it will be done with this code. So there goes our application. I hope it looks close to what we had envisioned. Yes, it does. And yes, so I'll now answer the questions from the chat now. Okay. So Mboya is asking which state management do I prefer? I personally don't have a preference for any, because I've worked with at least the major ones. So I've worked with the block pattern, block/qubit, which I've done for one app at great lengths, and then from there on, I've also worked with RVMS, which is a variation of block. I've also then worked with provider also. So for me, I wouldn't say I have a preference. I can work with any, and also it's good to like have a number of them. But if I have a project, like depending on the, okay, I choose them depending on like how I feel, because yeah, I can work with any. Personally, I can work with any. But for someone who is beginning, I will suggest you try out the block, but specifically a variation of block that is minimal called qubit by the same person who did the block library. Yes, because there's something called event sourcing that Flutter block has. So most apps don't require event sourcing. So if you don't require event sourcing, use Flutter block, but use the qubit and not the entire block itself. Someone asking, how is the Flutter community in Kenya inclusive of meetups and everything? So I would say it's pretty active, and even one of your own, Eric Muli, is among the organizers, and they do a very great job of organizing meetups together with the Android 254 community. So there I have no complaints, because they've been able to get meetups both locally and even get guys from abroad to be able to attend meetups, and even have some of our speakers speak at other meetups that are for other countries. So in terms of support, in terms of the community, I would say it's very, very active. And the WhatsApp group, by the way, is also like very, very active. And guys are always willing to share knowledge, because I think we even have one of us, I think my namesake, his name is Danvik, Danvik Miller, who has been able to create a package that enables you to do dynamic forms here and there in Flutter. So the package is available, and that is a guy from Kenya who's part of the community in Flutter. Yes, thank you for the invite, and happy end of the year.
Thank you.